So in this session, we're going to be covering what's new in PowerBuilder 2022 R2. First thing we're going to have is a legal disclaimer. Let's go over the session agenda. And actually, for would be considered a point release rather than a major release, there's actually a lot to go over here. We're going to talk about the updated system requirements, what's been discontinued and made obsolete in this version. The PDF builder has been updated with some new functionality. The rich text edit control has some new functionality. There's a new control for doing native SMTP. We're going to go over that. We're going to talk about modifications to the HTTP client, some changes in UI theme, a new feature called autocomplete for the drop-down data window and drop-down list boxes. We're going to talk about support now for the identity column in Oracle, similar to what's available in SQL Server and SQL Anywhere. We're going to talk about a new open URL function that replaces one function that was lost when the INET object became obsolete. We're going to talk about auto compression for the HTTP client and OAuth client. A new feature, more major new features here with this version is the ability to do tabbed MDI. We're going to talk about the upgrade to .NET 6 and the corresponding upgrade to ADO.NET drivers. We're going to talk about some source control enhancements, modern graphing, support for strict encryption for SQL Server, an upgraded migration assistant, and then the WebBrowser engine upgrade. So a little bit about me, if you're not familiar with who I am. I was back in the days when PowerSoft originally developed PowerBuilder and maintained it for the first few years. I was a member of Team PowerSoft, which is somebody who participates in their forums and asks a lot of questions and does presentations. When Sybase acquired PowerSoft, I became a member of Team Sybase. When SAP acquired Sybase, I became a SAP mentor or SAP mentor. And now that Appian is in control of PowerBuilder, I am an Appian MVP. So I've been around a long time. I've been contributing to as throughout that period for contributing source code, answering questions in the forums, doing presentations at sessions, at events, that kind of thing. A little bit about the company I work for. When I joined the company a few years after they formed, they were primarily a PowerBuilder shop. We've since moved on largely to HTML5 JavaScript, Java in the middle tier. We still have a number of clients that are still using the PowerBuilder product and a number of PowerBuilder developers. So let's talk about the updated system requirements. What's been removed is support for Windows 8.1 and Windows Server 2012 R2. So one of the things you're going to need to look at for moving to this version is, are you trying to support those operating systems still? If so, you're not going to want to do the upgrade or you'll need to consider whether you want to do the upgrade. You can still deploy to those platforms, but you've lost official support. So you do run into problems. Support's not going to be able to do much for you. In fact, if you are, I can't imagine it happening, but let's say you are running Windows 8.1 still, the installer will not run. It will because it's no longer considered a support operating system. Same thing with the runtime packager. It won't run on those two operating systems. That doesn't mean you can't deploy still, because you can always put together your own setup files. But yeah, it's time to be moving on from those products. What has been added is support for SQL Server 2022, support for PostgreSQL 15, and support for Oracle 23C. The main feature of 23C being that it supports TLS 1.3 in the communications between the client and the server. We're going to look at what's discontinued and obsolete. Now, discontinued means it's actually been removed from the product. Obsolete means it's there, but it's no longer officially supported. So similar to the operating system discussion we just had, if you do have problems, support's not really going to be able to do anything for you because it's no longer considered a feature of the product. So under obsolete, which means it's still there, but it's no longer supported, is dynamic data exchange. And then discontinued, which means it's been completely removed, is support for Windows 8.1 and Windows 2012 R2, as I mentioned earlier, and also the Direct Connect database connection. So if you're using Direct Connect database connection, one of the things you're going to need to look at is switching to an ODBC or native driver instead. we're going to talk about the web browser engine upgrade. You're probably familiar if you've used the 2022 version that the browser there was based on Chromium embedded framework. That's been changed over to Microsoft Edge WebView 2. And that's actually provided a few new features. There is a new navigate to string function. So you can put together basically a web page in PowerScript and a string variable, and then open it into the browser. There's post.json web message and post.string web message. That's so you can create JavaScript in your page that listens for either a JSON message or a string message, and then send those messages to the browser via PowerScript, and the web page will react to those messages. And I've got a demo where I'm going to show you all of this. There's also the open default download dialog and close default download dialog. So if you're downloading something in the web browser, you can pop open the download dialog, and so the user can see how the download is progressing. If you've been using the web browser control, you'll know that there's a web browser get and web browser set method. They're used to configure how the web browser operates. Many of these changes have to be set when the application first opens, because after that they become fixed and you can't modify them anymore from PowerScript. There have been quite a few changes here. So they're not breaking changes. If you have code that sets properties that are obsolete, it won't throw an error message. If you continue to send that property, it just won't do anything. And if you do a get for those properties, it will just return a blank. Once again, it will not throw an error. So everything having to do with the proxy and the cache path are rendered obsolete now. Those are no longer settings you can apply in the new version. The user data path property is now called user data folder. What hasn't changed is download path and user agent. Those are the same. And then some new properties have been added, runtime mode and fixed version runtime path. And we're going to cover that here in another slide in a minute. And then there's also allow file access from files and language. There's been some changes to some events. Largely, this is just new arguments, some additional arguments for the same existing events. So address change has new page argument, download start, evaluate JavaScript finished, navigate start, and PDF print finished all have new arguments. So it won't break existing code. It's just the additional arguments you can use in your scripting. The downloading state change, the major change here is the speed argument doesn't have any purpose anymore. But rather than taking it out, they just return 0 constantly now. And there's some new events. So accelerator key pressed, content loading, DOM content loaded, downloading operation state changed, estimated end time changed, history changed, is default download dialog state changed, lose focus, navigation complete, and web message received, all new events. So this is the distribution mode, is those first two properties, new properties I mentioned earlier. So what happens with the web edge view here is that it's in Windows 11, it's part of the operating system. And Windows will automatically keep it updated. So the problem with the Chromium embedded framework is when you released a version of your application, you released a particular version of that framework as with it. And then if you wanted to update the web browser for security reasons, you'd have to redeploy that runtime. Now, with the Evergreen runtime, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Windows will automatically update it, keep it up to date. So your application will always be using the most current version of the web browser. As I mentioned, in Windows 11, it's baked into the operating system. In Windows 10, the engine that does the update is not in the operating system, but it can be downloaded and installed. And this is a link you can go to get the Bootstrapper. That's a one-time operation, and after that, once it's installed, then even on Windows 10, the runtime, the evergreen runtime will always be updated. Now you can do that. You can say I want to use the evergreen runtime and not worry about updating the web browser from then on. The other option though is we're doing right now with the Chromium Embedded Framework is to run a fixed version. And so what you'll do is you'll create a folder underneath your application. You'll put the framework there for the web browser, and then it will always run that fixed version. And as we'll see in a minute here, there's also an option to look for evergreen, and if you can find it, use it, otherwise use fixed. And so because we've changed the web browser here, there's some changes to the runtimes. The PB web browser DLL is just different, but there's a new file called WebBrowser API.tlb. And then depending on whether or not you're going to go fixed or evergreen, if you're going to go fixed, there'll be a folder, PB WebView 2, that you'll put the runtime in, the fixed version. Otherwise, you wouldn't deploy that at all. And you could name this whatever you want. That's one of those settings in the web browser set, is what the name of that folder is. So this is the application properties dialog. Notice that there's a new web browser option on here. And as I mentioned, there are actually the 3 different modes to operate in. There's the evergreen runtime, always use the fixed version, and then that third option that says look for the evergreen, or if it doesn't exist, use the fixed version. Now, if you're going to go evergreen, either always or by default and default to fixed, and the users are on Windows 10, you might have to prompt them for install of the evergreen runtime, that one-time operation. So that's what this option is here. It's the URL that they're going to download the evergreen runtime from. Defaults to the one from Microsoft, although you could install this locally on a network server and then change this location to point to that instead. So that's for if you're going to be going evergreen. If you're going to be going fixed, that's where these 2 properties come into play, where that tells it where to load the fixed version from. And obviously you can customize the location, you give it whatever name you want. You can set all this in the application object properties. You can also specify it through PowerScript. If you specify it through PowerScript, it overrides whatever you've got here in the application properties. And so let's go ahead and take a look at a demo of that. So now we're going to look at the web browser control and the new features available there. You may have seen this session, a session I did when the web browser control first came out. This is the window I used to demo it. I've just updated it to show some of the new features. So that mainly starts about down here. There's just a call to open default download dialog and the corresponding call to close it. And so let's just take a look at those, something simple to start off with here. So here's a web browser control. And once again, you can load HTML5. You can watch a video. Or watch an ad at least. And that's the we can display a PDF document. That's kind of nice. Although the 1040 is not necessarily something that's really nice. And then it has multi-language support. So That's in English. And now we got it in German. One thing that's different, well, there's a couple more here. Display GIF file. Yeah, and even like a C# document. So it's useful for displaying a lot of things. The one thing that's different is if I try to do Flash. I try to navigate to that, and it just tells me it's blocked. So anyway, like I said, a lot of these options, zooming, context menu, they're all from the original data window. I'm sorry, the original web browser control. This is the open download, and there was it attempted to download the Flash file, and it got blocked. And we delete that message, and we can close the dialog. Okay, let's take a look at some of these other functions. So navigate to string. That's if we want to basically dynamically create a page and display it in the web browser control. So here I have just putting together some HTML, and I'm going to say navigate to that page, but that page is this string. Now, the one thing I want to point out here, I've got a script in here that's where I add an event listener into the page, and I'm going to send a message to it as soon as I display it. And there's a couple different ways you can send a message. You can either send it as string or as JSON. Now, the way this event listener has been coded, it's going to look for JSON. And then we'll post our JSON message once that page is loaded. And I'll just pass in the word followed by JSON as our that's the attribute name, and this is the actual attribute. A very simple JSON message there. So let's go ahead and look at that. So navigate to, there's my nice fancy HTML page, and I send a message to it, and it says hello. That's what the function did. It said hello, and then pasted in whatever value was sent in through the JSON. Okay, so that is navigate to string and posting a JSON web message. We can also pass a string web message, but for that, I'm going to have a different HTML page. So I'm going to make the function just a little bit different, where it just has to look at the data. It doesn't have to unpack JSON. And then we go ahead and send the message in plain text, rather than, as it's just normal text rather than a JSON message. So we go ahead and look at that. So this is my nice fancy web page that has the string function in it, and then I'll post my string message now. Okay, now we had register event before, and evaluating JavaScript, we have the option to do it either asynchronously or synchronously. So here's where I'm going to register an event on the control. And unregister it. Okay. And here is where I do evaluate JSON. And what it'll do is just say hi PB. The difference is if I fire that asynchronously, I don't have an opportunity to know what the response was or whether there was an error message. If I do it synchronously, I get back, I can pass in as parameters variable that will get me the result and the error message. And I'll display them. Now, what's going to happen, and I should change this, is that this is going to display, I mean, I'm going to get some value back here, and I'm going to display it, but normally that's going to be a null if this thing works correctly. So let's save that and run that. Oh, and this is from the demo before, but this list box down here, every time there's an event that fires on the web browser control, I note it in this list box so you can see what's going on from all the different events in the web browser control. So I'll register an event, do an evaluate JavaScript. There's a new argument on the evaluate JavaScript finish control event that says is finished, and so it returned true. And I've actually got message boxes in that event as well that also display those messages. So there's the result we got back and the error message we got back. So, no error. And that was from the asynchronous because I had those event messages in the event on the browser, not in the function. Here's what I'm doing, evaluate JavaScript, and I'm getting the result and the error from the actual call to evaluate JavaScript. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's the new web browser control. Oh, actually, before we go too far, go to look at the settings. This is the other big thing is I'm using my runtime mode. Remember I talked about the fixed and the evergreen runtime mode. I'm using the evergreen runtime mode here, so it's always using the most current version of the engine. If I was using fixed, then you would see a file path here where I would be deploying the fixed version of the browser. The reason that all of these are disabled, except for download path, is all these other options you have to set in the open event of the application before the web browser gets created. Once the web browser gets created, you can't modify any of these other settings. Just the download path. All right. Okay. So now we're done. That is the new or the revised web browser control. We're going to look at the PDF builder now. There was a sort of a beta version of it in the 2022 release. It's been greatly enhanced now in the R2 release. So now you can import a PDF document, existing PDF document, into a new document in memory. And that becomes the basis for which you then perform other operations on it. You can import data from a data window child, or a data store into the PDF document. You can merge PDF documents together, and that includes merging landscape and portrait documents into a single file. You can set the PDF document properties and security. You can add multi-line text, single-line text, rich text, or an image to a PDF document through PowerScript. You can compress PDF documents. The caveat I'll throw out there is compression really only works well if you have large image files in your PDF. If your PDF is largely text, you're not going to see a whole lot of benefit from compression. It mainly operates on images in the file. You can insert pages into a PDF document. You can create inter-document links. So if you have, let's say, a table of contents, you may have noticed some PDF documents you have where the page numbers in the table of contents will be hyperlinks. When you click on them, it will take you to that page of the document. You can do that using PowerScript now. You can add text or image watermarks to the PDF document, and you can attach files to the PDF document. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at a demo of that. So this is the PDF Builder demo. And what I've got here to the right of the screen, this big empty white space, that is a web browser control. Because for most of the features, the new features that have been introduced, when I want to display the PDF, it's really easy to do it right in the web browser control in the PowerBuilder window. The one exception to that will be the attached file, because you don't see file attachments when you're browsing a PDF in a browser. We're going to have to use something like Acrobat to see that. But the rest of this we can demonstrate by just using the web browser control. So the first option here is just importing a PDF, and I'm going to show the code behind all this. So we create a blank PDF document, and then we import an existing PDF document into that blank document. That in and of itself isn't particularly thrilling, but it's the basis for all the features that we look at after this, such as merging files, adding pages, setting watermarks, the file attachment. That's all based on having this PDF document that we're building as we go. So here we import the PDF document into our new document, and then I've got this utility function that just saves it back out, and then use the file option for the web browser to navigate to the local file we just saved. So let's go ahead and look at the first one, which, like I said, isn't necessarily all that dramatic, but we can take an existing PDF and we then save it back out. And so that's the original PDF just saved out as a new file. No changes, but we'll build on that. This next one isn't necessarily going to use that technique. What I'm going to do here, this is the ability to import a data window child, or a data store into an existing PDF file. So I'm going to create a blank PDF document. I've got a data store here that I'm going to populate with data and then import it into the PDF file. And then once again, save and display it. So what that looks like is this. Okay. Now, this actually did get mangled a bit. I've got an option down here to show what the original data store looked like. So that's something I've brought up to Appian to address. It looks like it might be a font issue. Yeah, but so far that, at least for the graph, that hasn't been addressed yet. Next thing, we're looking at merging PDF files together. So look at that button. So once again, we're building on the first thing we started on. We're going to create a blank PDF document and then import the first PDF document into that blank document. Then I'm going to get another PDF document, and I'm just going to do import PDF again, and that will merge the two documents together. And then we save it and display it. So let's look at that. And just to make things tricky here, I happen to know that this is a horizontal rather than a vertical PDF. You saw that. That was the first one I copied. This one is a vertical PDF. So I'm going to select the vertical PDF for the first file, a horizontal PDF for the second file. I'm going to now save them out as a third file. And when we display it, there's the vertical PDF. Going down here for a while. And there's the horizontal PDF file that was tacked on behind it. Okay, so that's merging PDF files. Next, what we're going to look at is setting a watermark image. So once again, I'm going to create a blank PDF document. I'm going to grab one of these existing PDF files, import it into that document. And then I've got a little icon that's a little image that says Elevate 2023. It's an image, and I will set its transparency to 50%, and I will rotate it to a 45-degree angle, and then save the file back out with that watermark on it. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's do this guy again. Save that back out as test. And you notice the Elevate 2023 watermark is now included in the document. And I'm going to do that one again. I'm going to pick that longer file. Oop, that wasn't the right one. That's fine. Save that back out. Let me do that again with this one. That's the longer file. And save that back out. Just to show, there's that image, just to show that it's appearing on every page. Okay, so that's a watermark image. We can also do a watermark text. So that's this next option down here. And it's very similar to the watermark image. I'm going to import my PDF document. I'm going to set the watermark text rather than image now. And once again, I set the transparency and rotate it 45 degrees. So let's take a look at that. And we'll do the long document again. Save that back out. And there, now it didn't end up quite so big. I probably should, we can adjust the size of that a bit. But there is the watermark that's embedded in the in every page. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is attach a file. Once again, I'm going to load up one of these PDF documents. I'm going to ask for what file we want to attach to it, add the file to the PDF document, and then save it back out and display it. Although, like I said, it won't display properly. It won't display. I mean, it'll display fine. You won't see the file that was attached in the web browser because the web browsers don't show file attachments for PDFs. So we're going to have to use an Acrobat to actually see the attachment. So let's run this. I'm going to say we're going to attach a file. Let's just do that one page. And let's just do our image. We'll attach our image and save that out as test. So we see the image here in the browser, but that doesn't necessarily tell us anything. So what we need to see is the actual file. So now this is opened up in Adobe Acrobat, and we can go here. This is the file attachments, and we can see the attachment that's been added to the document. And if we just to validate this here, we're going to go back to the original image and look at the attachments there, and there are no attachments. So we actually did add that attachment. So that's adding attachments. Next is compress. And we'll just pull up one of these PDF documents. We'll take some of the value of compression that I've specified in the dropdown and apply that level of compression and then save it back out and display it. Now the thing I noted during the session, during the slides, is that this tends to only affect files that have a lot of images in them. If you got a text document, the compress isn't really going to do a whole lot. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I'm going to set it to 1. Say I want to do a compress. We'll do this big long document. Save it back out. There's that document. We'll go back into the File Explorer though. And compare the size of those two files. So this is, expand this out a little bit. This was a 25 megabyte file, and it's still, in fact, it's decompressed. No, it's compressed a little bit. So we saved about less than 20 kilobytes on the size of the file with the one setting. Let's go ahead and do a compress again. I'll set it to 9 this time. So we'll take that original file again, save it back out. There it is compressed. Go back to our file manager. And this time Looks like we got about 70 kilobytes. Yeah, this is a text file. You're just not going to get a lot of compression on it, unless, like I said, unless you've got a lot of images. But that's what compression is. Okay, so this is just adding a page. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take one PDF file and I'm going to load it in. I'm going to ask for a second PDF file. Then I'm going to get the first page of that second PDF file. I'm going to clone it and then add that cloned page into the original PDF document. So that's how we're going to do a merge. And so let me run this. I'll take that as the first file. That is the second file. Save that out. And now we see, here's this sample certified PDF that has the first page of the other PDF appended behind it. So that's how you can add pages. The last thing we're going to look at here is how we can set the security and document settings. So I'm just going to open up this file, this window right here. And what this will do is when I load this window, I read the current settings for the PDF document and display them in this window. You then manipulate whatever you want to manipulate, and when you close and it goes back to the original window, it'll take these properties and it will save them out back onto the original document. Actually, let's go look in the settings because that's where I do it. Well, actually, you saw that when it first came out. So I'm taking my PDF document. I'm going to either the security properties or just the regular properties, and I'm setting the values. That's in the clicked event. I think maybe it showed the open event when I first started the window open. And that's when I'm reading those properties and setting them to all the various controls. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's do this one right here. Okay, so a bunch of this stuff was allowed. I'm going to turn all this stuff off. You can set passwords. So I'll set up master password. And a user password. The user password allows the user to get into the document. The master password means that the user can't change anything unless they provide the master password. We'll say the application is PowerBuilder 2022 R2. That I'm the author. Okay, so we basically mess with everything. I'm going to close that. I'm going to save it back out as this test file. And notice, even the web browser control, notice this document is now password protected. I'm going to provide the user password. Oops. As soon as it has focus, I'll provide the user password. And it says I have limited permissions. And so I can't do anything because I turned all those features off. And we can look at the document properties, and you can see the information that I put in for the document properties. Okay, so that is the PDF Builder, the new features of the PDF Builder. the end of the presentation, so it's time for questions and answers.